So, Fearless, the second book in this The Lost Fleet series by Jack Campbell. That is a pseudonym. It is not actual Jack Campbell, that guy's name is, but that's fine. And I love this. I love the first book. I thought it was an interesting premise to have the entire thing take place on the helm of a ship, basically, and like we don't follow any other POVs. We don't get any, oh, he's sailing around like Star Wars style ship fight or anything like that. And especially the focus on distances is really what drew me in the first place. So of course, got the second book. It is almost 20 years old. Next year it will turn 20, so I am a bit behind, you can say. But as always, let's start by talking about what people on the story graph has rated this, and then we'll take it from there. So with 1600 reviews, it stands at a respectable 3.7. And that's pretty darn good. It's better than what I would have given it, and we'll get to that. Let's just go through the stats. Most people say it is fast-paced at 66%, and 30% says it is medium-paced. I think that's about right. I think it is a fast-paced book. It's not very long, and a lot of stuff do happen, so yeah, makes sense in my head. Is it plot or character-driven? Now, most people have said it is either plot with 40% or a mix at 43%. I, however, am among the 14%. Oh my god, so unique, so different, wow. I'm among the 14% who honestly think this is character driven, and that is because every decision, although driven by the idea of going back to the Alliance, isn't it called like the Alliance? I think they're called that. Yeah, the Alliance. It's going back to their territory. Every decision, every route, etc. is done by John Campbell. So I honestly, or Blackjack as he's also called, right? Isn't that like his nickname? Is it here? Yeah, Captain John Blackjack Geary. Not Campbell, but Geary. Should have said that. And I think that makes it more of a character-driven story, but I can see the argument for it being plot because he's just trying to follow the plot along and move it. So, I don't know. Is there strong character development? It is a heavy yes or no split with nearly 40-40, and the last 20 says it's complicated. And let me just look at my own review of it. I do think there is some character development, maybe not amongst the main character. But I think there is some among all the side characters, especially the co-president, whatever her name is. I know her name is Victoria. Co-president Rion, Victoria Rion. I honestly think there's a lot of character development for her, given she builds up trust, removes the trust, gets it back. We'll get to that. I thought it was a bit dumb, but you know. But in general, I think there's a lot of, among the sides, more and more of the captains are trusting Captain Jack and so on. But yeah, he himself does not really go through that much of a character arc. At least not yet. He is slowly warming up to love, but I think that would be more in the next book, if I had to make a guess. Are the characters lovable? 50% says yes, I agree. I think the characters are interesting, they are funny. Oh, I was trying to remove some dirt, but there's dirt on my screen. I think the characters are funny. I think they're interesting. I think especially Dasani, is very, very precious, and I will defend her forever because she is very cool, and so is the other main character. I don't remember his name. I don't remember his name, but he's like the captain of Fearless, I think it is. But yeah, I like that. Are the cast of characters diverse? I said complicated, and most people say no, and a few has said complicated. Like literally 50% has said no, and then 12 complicated. So 35 said yes. I think it's complicated because while there are some aspects that are like, we have a lot of women, we have a lot of stuff, we don't get a lot of the characters, so we don't really know, and all of them are basically military in some regard, except for Co-President Rion. So really, yeah, I can see the argument for there not being, but Now, are the flaws of the characters in the main focus? It is nearly a perfect 40 split between yes, no, and complicated. So like 40-40 to yes and no, and 20 to complicated. And I said yes, they are. For Captain Jack, I think Jack Geary, I think the main focus for him is overcoming his fear of turning into Black Jack that everyone thinks he is. Or not Captain Jack, his name is John, but his nickname is Black Jack. And for a lot of the other like military people, it's overcoming years and years of learning how to just sacrifice yourself for nothing. So yes, I think there's a lot of focus on their flaws. And for Co-President Rion, there's a lot of focus on her learning to trust John Geary. So yes, I honestly think there's a lot of focus. With that being said, let's talk about this cover. I looked it up. The cover is composed of stock images, and I actually think it worked really well. I don't mind when you do stock images, because this is what it's for. So it's a Shutterstock. It's NAS from NASA. So I don't know who did the setup, like who did the composition, or whatever you want to call it. But I think the cover here Titan's book has made is really interesting. We have the captain in the background looking all serious and worried, and that is basically John Geary. In the entire thing, he's trying very hard to be serious and worried. We have the spaceship, the Fearless, and it does look like the one I remember from the first one. Well, it looks like the Fearless, which is slightly different from Dauntless, but you see it's the same style. And we have the next one, Courageous, which is also slightly different, but still in the same style. So I like that. I like how you can tell they're different ships, but the same. Alright, the actual story. So we escaped last time, and now we're trying to go like a big weird U-turn around within the enemy's territory. At one point they realize, oh wait, here is a prison labor camp, and John Geary, being who he is like, no, the rules of war state, we should try and save them. So he saves them, of course. Makes sense to me, it's in character. And there they save another captain who is basically like used to, like, they call him the demigod of the Alliance fleet mentality, because Captain Blackjack is the main, and they have a bit of a scuffle about who is in charge. And then, because they're both captains, so it's about seniority, and he goes, well, I'm probably the most senior captain you can find in the fleet. And John Geary laughs it a bit and goes, well, I have 100 years on you, my man. So he keeps it, even though people, and it's kind of interesting, because I agree with it. People go, well, yeah, but you weren't really in the army per se. So I do follow the logic of not quite agreeing that him being the leader. But on the other hand, the other guy's a douche. What I do like about him, and I don't remember his name. Yeah, I don't remember. But what I liked about that captain was he had, honest to God, like wanting the best for the Alliance. Like, he wasn't just a douche who wanted to become like the leader of the Alliance. Like, yes, he wanted to be the leader of the Alliance because he honestly thought it was what was best for the Alliance. And that is not very common, I feel like, that is the character trait. Of course, this results in mutiny in the fleet. Which is the entire premise of it, is half the fleet escapes. And I think it's good. At the beginning I was very like, do I like it, do I not like it? But I think I came to the conclusion I like it. And the reason I came to that conclusion is because the story, like, not all the captains trust John Geary. And a lot of them are like, let's just inflict a lot of damage and let's just take direct route home, which is what he's not doing. So I think for the most part I agree with it, and also the fact that he's been a captain for 100 years, but he's been in a status for most of those years. So, can you really say he has the, seniority? It's tough to say. Now, what I do enjoy also is Desani gets her old boyfriend, lover, or whatever back, and he is transferred to their ship, and she goes to talk to John Geary about it, and it's like, I'm worried about this, and I'm worried that people's gonna look weird at us too, because now I'm a senior officer, he's still a junior, and how are we gonna potentially make this work if we are gonna get back together? And he literally just goes, we'll just transfer him to another ship, but you're gonna tell him honest to God why. And I think it would have been easy to make it into a subplot where she is like, trying to figure out how to tell him, and he's getting more and more upset and all of that. And here it's just taking it as adult. Listen, here's what's going on. Here's why you can't be on the ship. And they do is like, yeah, makes sense. I accept. I agree. And they're onward. It's awesome that, such an adult thing. Now, something else is, in this book, everything is done via simulation. And that's interesting enough on its own. But what happens when your captain doesn't do the simulations because he's just using the experience he has? Well, you get mistrust. And that's what happens because co-president Rion and John Geary has a bit of a flirt, it becomes a bit of romantically inclined together. And that makes it awkward when they don't quite, when she goes looking for the simulations for his plan and finds there's none. And then she goes, how do you know it's correct? And he goes, well, it's logical. This is the only thing that makes sense. And she's very upset with him and says he betrayed her or whatever. And I disagree a lot on that. I think that is very much an overreaction even for what she should be doing. But on the other hand, it does add some interest. And yeah, I honestly think it was too much. But yeah, it ends up when she does all the simulations to show he is correct, that is the best solution. So all good, all good and well. They go out and everyone's like, we should just destroy the entire system, because they go to this quite important system to get resources. It's one of the biggest shipyard systems that is under defended because it's quite far in the enemy territory, and the enemy expects them to go straight back, but that's not what happened. And of course, he has a great argument, John Geary, for why they shouldn't just obliterate every single thing. They should keep it mostly intact, because that's going to keep it worth it for the enemy to rebuild, which means they're going to take a lot of resources away. Whereas if you destroy it completely, it's lost resources, but they're not going to spend the time or the money to rebuild, and therefore the war can go on further. But now they have to protect it because they've shown it. And I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it. Something else that I found interesting was the addition of these gates. So of course that's faster than light speed, and that's what John Geary does, but they also have these warp gates, and that's what the overall story is about, how the ship Dauntless has the key to the Federation's warp gates. And they talk about the warp gates and how they work, and if we go to, I think called Sankara, the system, that's an important system, they could use the warp gate to get back quickly. And he goes, well, what if they just figure that out and they decide to remove the warp gate? And the discussion then goes, then either nothing happens or it's a supernova. And he gets frustratingly upset about that. And I think it's really interesting because it's for me, almost a classic case of stuff humans do. We will use something not quite understanding it, and this is of course on a very high scale, but even on a low end scale, we use stuff every day where we don't quite understand how it works or the ramification if we do stuff wrong. And this is of course a very extreme case of it, but the idea still stands. And he realizes, you say we got the technology roughly at the same time, and they all go, yeah. You also say that they say we stole it, but it seems like they think we stole it from them. So where did this technology come from? And started to piece this together. We might not be alone in the universe. At the same time, they at Sankara managed to get some old, I think it was at Sankara, they managed to get some old maps, and it shows like there's a very harsh line on the opposite side of the Federation area, and he goes, that's really, really weird, and they have a lot of discussions about this. And in general, I think the book pulls back something into, because in the previous book, almost a throwaway thing was they found technology and stuff that was not normal for humans and did not make sense, but everyone's just like, alright, we're just gonna move on, we don't have time to investigate. And here Jack Campbell brings it back in a natural way and goes, hey, remember how we found this weird stuff? Wasn't that weird? Didn't you wonder why, what it was? And then here he brings the idea of an alien species. Well, we haven't met them, we haven't gotten it confirmed nor denied, we're just planting the seed, and I love that. Not only is it of course sequel baiting, but it's also just making the story interesting. Now, after taking over Sankara, he has one of his... she's not a captain, she's like a lieutenant or something like that, like a commander, runs some simulations and calculations and figures out how to controllably destroy these gates, because the Federation's just like, we're just gonna destroy it and accept we potentially lose our system. And they do controllably do it, but the simulation also shows how you can make it into nuclear bombs, and they agree on deleting all the data, and only Co-President Rion has a copy, and it's on a physical disk. And I think from a humanity standpoint, it's basically the nuclear bomb idea. Is like, yeah, humanity is not supposed to have this, and there's a lot of talk about it. And she goes, well, why do you think I should have it? And he goes, well, you're the only one I would trust with it. I wouldn't even trust myself. And he goes, well, how do I know you don't have it? And he just kind of shrugs and says, you can't really know for sure, you just have to trust me. But that's why I'm giving this to you, to show you that I don't want it, because I believe that you will do what's right with it, if ever it's needed or not. But then we of course jump onward, because the warp gate was destroyed. We jump onward to another little system that is basically useless, and here is where we meet up with the mutinous fleet, or whatever was left of it, which wasn't much. And he ends up, of course, coming up with some great strategies for saving them, because before they left, he put in the idea of a star system, so they would know if they could escape, where to go. And he meets up, he saves, he protects them, he rewards the commandant of one of the capital ships for staying back and protecting everybody. And that is important, because the ships that were actually supposed to stay back and protect the capital ships fled and were basically ready for combat again, were only minor damaged when they got through the warp zone area, or the faster than light zone. Yeah, so he of course punishes those, and he does it in an interesting way, because he's within his right to do a lot of stuff, but he is shooting them or sort of, because he can be like, oh, you disgraced the fleet, but he's that's not gonna help in the long run. He's gonna show that he is not that bad, even though he's tempted. But yeah, then we ended with a big battle, and then they fly onward. That's the entire story, and I for most part really, really like it. What I realized I enjoy about this is everything's taking place on the ship of the Dauntless, and we don't get any epic fights or anything like we see in Star Wars. Like I said, this is a very slow. This is Captain Jack sitting there getting a notification oh, 5 minutes ago this happened because of distances. And he goes, alright, I need to coordinate. So when everyone's synchronized clock says this, move like this. And we keep getting these light minutes, light seconds, oh, we have to take into account the furthest away ship is 30 light minutes away. So if we send data, it's going to take so long for him to reach it, and so long for him to send back an answer. So if he's 30 minutes away, we should expect at least an hour before, at a minimum an hour, or an hour 10, because he needs to review whatever he's been told. And I think it's a unique premise, because it would be tempting to have, small fighter jets fly around, but that's not how it works when there's no gravity and there's no gravity, so you can't really do it like you would do on a normal ship. But yeah, overall, I think these books are really, really good. I think the premise is interesting. I think it's funny. I think the seed of an alien species is interesting. I think the characters are fun. And what I also love about this is they are fast-paced, but they're kind of slow at the same time. Like, a lot of time is spent going, oh, we prepared the plan, but now we have to wait a week because it takes forever to get from A to B. So people are just walking around, relaxing, resting, because it takes so long. And it put into perspective on how ship battles used to be. Like, yeah, we know the enemy is over here, but this is like still really, really far away. It's gonna take a while for us to get there, so we might as well prepare mentally and slowly. So yeah, I think this is the most unique sci-fi series I can think of, and I love it. Now, should you read the sequel here? Absolutely, man. It's so good. And I cannot wait to read more. But this has been my review of Fearless. And next up, we're gonna be looking at The Dragon Thief by Blake and Penn, I think it's called. Let me just check here quickly. Stats. Is it profile? I'm looking at the storycraft that I'm using. Dragon Thief by Raven Penn and Blake Penn. And yeah, that'll be the first book in the Skystone Chronicles, and I'm excited. It seems like an interesting book from what I've read so far. So yeah, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more.